Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's the guy who's ready to meet the monster. I am Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our Survivor 41 kickoff special. We have a cast of Survivor 41, 18 new players that will be competing in the 41st season of Survivor. And I am here with a man who knows everything about what we have had released here in these last couple of hours. Please welcome, of course, you know him from Parade.com, of course, from the Survivor B&B, among many other podcasts. Here is the great. Give it up for Mr. Mike Bloom.
Rob, I know I go by many nicknames over the course of my time on this podcast. I have to add one more. I'm no longer Mix Master Mike Bloom. I have to be Mix Monster Mike Bloom now. And I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Feed me castaways.
Yes. Monster Mike. We will feed you as many castaways as you want.
Well, I'm hopefully...
How hungry are you?
I mean, I'm hoping to keep people well fed. I hope to be like Rupert out there with the Hawaiian sling, just bringing in many interviews and podcasts, because this is a kickoff special, but the game has just begun. We have a lot to preview over the course of this podcast, but this is just the start of the next, 3+ weeks of off season as we finally, it's happening. It's real. It's happening, Rob. A year plus since Survivor US has graced our screens. It's finally coming back, and it feels like freaking Christmas morning, but like if there actually was a year without a Santa Claus, and now Santa's Act, you hear the jingle bells and you're like, oh, okay, now I get to put the milk and cookies out. This is incredible.
Yeah, Survivor's sneaking up on us. It's going to be, I think, only 3 weeks from Wednesday. So this is sort of a short preseason for us here to have the cast announced today, August 30th, when we got the full cast, plus many interviews that Jeff has done with a few different outlets, including an interview that you yourself got with Jeff Probst. We will talk about all that and much more as we are officially underway in the Survivor 41 preseason, something that we thought we might never say.
Yeah, or at least something that was only dreamed upon. Obviously, drips and dregs of information were coming out over the past year, right? Of when is it going to happen, if not when. They were able to get it in the can during a pretty tumultuous time for Fiji and the world back in the spring. Now it has been released. A new 26-day adventure of Survivor is coming our way on September 22nd with a 2-hour premiere. And yes, the 26 days is going to be one of the many things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be, I think, just talking through a lot of the stuff that Jeff has revealed through these interviews, how season 41 is going to work. If you're looking for like a big, detailed cast preview, this is not the podcast for that. We have many more hours to come where we're going to do that. This is going to more so just be like a hot take, first reaction. Oh my God, Survivor 41 is actually happening and we can get our hands around it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about everything we know at this hour. We're going to take a quick look at the 18 castaways and hear about some of the tidbits that Mike got from his interview with Jeff Probst, and maybe some questions from the chat as we go along here. This will be just our kickoff special today. But Mike, what's coming next in terms of our cast previewing of Survivor 41?
Yeah, so a lot in both written form and audio form. I guess I can start with the written form. So I had the ability to interview these castaways. Interview will put in loose quotations because, I did not get the opportunity to actually talk with them. Obviously, I did not go to Fiji, but what we were able to do was a similar process that actually Shannon, Gus, and myself did for Survivor South Africa this past year. I got to send in a list of questions to be asked to the contestants while they were waiting out the time before the game. They recorded those answers, sent it back to me, and I compiled those answers into both article form for me and also in podcast form for the two of us.
Go on.
So over the course of the next week or so, what you're going to be getting is every day from me over on Parade.com, you are going to be getting an article in the morning and an article in the afternoon that is going to be a written interview with a Survivor cast member. And then about every other day or so, you and I, Rob, are getting together for 3 cast previews. We are going 6 castaways at a time. We're going to play some of those audio questions, talk about my interviews with them, talk about their bios, maybe some other extracurriculars that have come out during this time. That's going to be our opportunity to really, for lack of a better term, dig deep into these castaways. Right now is going to be a bit more surface level at the moment. That being said, I'm already seeing some immense hype for this cast across the board from the online community. So I really relish the opportunity to get to know them more, because I mean, if you think you love them now, just wait until you really get to know them through the interviews that we're doing.
Yeah, and schedule-wise on those interview podcasts that we're going to drop, we're going to have one for you later this week on Wednesday, a second one at the end of the week on Friday, and then we will have the third and final one at the start of next week after the Labor Day holiday. So we're going to bang these out real quick for you. I know everybody's very eager to go. Everybody wants to do their drafts. Everybody wants to meet the new castaways. So we will do the best we can to get those out to you in a manageable way.
Yeah, exactly. Give people enough time to digest things, still have a couple of weeks under their belt. I mean, I cannot believe that it's already turning to September. Again, it's been a long time since we've had something substantial to look forward to. Now, of course, if you have been dining on the International Survivor buffet like a lot of us have, you've been relatively well fed. But if you've been starving yourself essentially for the past year plus, this is incredibly exciting. And in many ways, because this is officially from, the horse's mouth himself, Jeff Probst. Rob, this is a new era of Survivor. I know it is always a big question among Survivor fans. What are the eras of Survivor? No matter what, we can officially say Survivor 41, for better or for worse, the start of a brand new cycle of Survivor. As Jeff said previously, might as well drop the 4 and keep the 1, because we're looking at a nearly brand new game here.
Well, Survivor has never taken a break like this before. That we ended up with the last time that Survivor filmed was actually in 2019. So never before in history of the show have they taken a 2-year hiatus from filming.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, last time Survivor filmed, nobody knew about the milk crate challenge, and that just shows like the true
That's
timeline.
the biggest thing I think they said.
Yeah, it was completely different world. It's BMC and AMC, before milk crates and after milk crates. Is how we usually mark time here. Yeah, it's interesting to think about, and obviously, had, for many reasons, things gone normally, they would have just continued rolling with 41 and 42. But I think during this extended hiatus, what they did was really take a look at, okay, in many ways, season 40 was the end of an era. To quote Jeff Probst, from my interview that I had with him, he said, "Winners at War was designed to be the end of an era for Survivor. We felt we had gotten everything we could out of that version of Survivor. We wanted to go out with one final battle, and thanks to our amazing group of winners, I think that we did." And you can understand from a creative perspective, you're like, where do we go from here? And so from that perspective, I would say this is not necessarily back to basics, but it's not necessarily a continuation. Nary a fire token to be seen. Yeah. No edge of extinction. There's a reference to a game within a game, but nobody's coming back into the game anytime soon. And I think what they want to proceed with is okay, we have this Survivor skeleton. We're going to sort of break down the body, start from here again, and build stuff out, rather than necessarily adding more organs and other body parts to what they currently had assembled for the first 40 seasons.
Yeah, that's why when we say season 40 was always scheduled to be the end of an era of Survivor. I just feel like that in the lead up to Survivor 40, it was we've got fire tokens and we're going in all these different directions and we're doing this. And it's no. And then there was a long break, and then Survivor took a look in the mirror and I think asked itself some important questions of, what do we want the show to be about? And I think we're going to find out in Survivor 41 what the answers to those questions are, at least in terms of what Survivor thinks it should be. I have to be honest that everything about the monster and how hard the game is going to be, I mean, this was a left turn for me. I did not see this being the direction. If you would have asked me, 6 months ago, a year ago, hey, when Survivor comes back, what's it going to look like? And Evie said, like, well, it's actually going to be shorter and incredibly hard.
Yeah. I mean, listen, shorter and
That would not have
incredibly
been my
hard.
guess.
Shorter and incredibly hard is certainly an aesthetic that some people enjoy, but maybe not when it comes to Survivor necessarily.
That's one of the most common aesthetics.
Yeah, I think one of the easiest search terms in certain algorithms. Yeah, I think that it's a really unique change, and like you said, Survivor has done a lot of introspection, even in the 30s. Right, there's that infamous Jeff statement of like, "I realize we don't make it for the audience, we make it for the players," and I think this is really an opportunity. If Survivor 40 was like Britney Spears shaving her head and taking an umbrella to the paparazzi shield, now it's like her rebuilding period, right, where she like takes up the residency in Vegas.
Wow, I never thought of it like that before, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, that's another thing too. People who played in 2019 didn't even know about the whole Britney Spears conservatorship that was to come. Those poor naive souls.
Some people did.
That's true. Some people wanted to leave her alone. But I think at this point, it's a matter of sort of rebuilding and trying to figure out, like, how do we not necessarily reinvent this game, but maybe focus the game into something different. Now, look, does that mean that we're not going to have advantages and idols? No. I think, frankly, we'd be foolish to say they're going to completely disappear.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm personally hoping for is that we sort of have a refocus in terms of storytelling. From maybe less so strategically saying things about like who has what and how can people maneuver around all the whispering at tribal council, more so to like, these are people stranded in the wilderness trying to build a society, trying to figure it out while playing this cutthroat game. That's what made us fall in love with this game in the very first place. And I'm hoping with the time away, especially, we should mention, with a real burgeoning of the show, this is really like a second renaissance for the show, right? With you and I talked about this before with Shannon Gus, with the show being available on Netflix, with celebrities upon celebrities diving into it over the course of quarantine. This is the hottest period of Survivor since the summer of 2000. We're like Inco wrong. We don't need no more heat, baby.
Wow.
And so I think that, you really have to think about like, what do people enjoy about this show and how can we capitalize on it? I think all those choices were informed of what they brought into here, which we're going to break down. Jeff Probst has a lot of revelations in this opening day of the preseason. I'm sure there'll be much more to come. There are certain vagaries that are thrown in that we can only guess about, but it's a really intriguing new direction that to your point, I think if you had asked us at the end of 2019, what direction is Survivor going to go post 40, I don't think this would have been it.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to set up that if you want to continue on with our preseason coverage, make sure you subscribe to our podcast feed. 2 different ways to subscribe to our Survivor coverage. Actually, 3. That if you want to get everything here on RHAP as a podcast, including all of our Big Brother coverage and everything else, subscribe to our main podcast feed in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Or you could subscribe to our Survivor only podcast feed, also available. Search RHAP Survivor if you are looking for just the Survivor podcast, and that will also include shows like the RHAP B&B, also YX Lost, and everything else that we do in our Survivor podcast feed. Also, of course, those other shows without me are also available in our reality TV RHAP-ups feed, which you can also find in Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. All right, Mike, where do you want to start today?
Well, actually, let's start. I'm going to let Jeff Probst introduce us here, because this is a video that's currently up on the CBS website that I think serves as a great introduction to what we were just talking about. It's from Survivor. Jeff Probst narrates it, and it's discussing how, once again, this is a new era of Survivor, looking back and looking forward.
Okay. All right, so here we go. I have not seen this video, so I am very eager to see what Mike is showing us. Again, if you're listening to the podcast version, you can always watch the video of our podcast on our YouTube channel at robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. All right, here goes nothing.
For 21 years, Survivor has continued to evolve by pushing the envelope and testing the players. And over 40 seasons, the game has become much more complex.
We're buffering.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like May 2020 all over again.
Here, let me refresh it and see if that'll help with this. Okay, all right.
For 21 years, Survivor has continued to evolve by pushing the envelope and testing the players. And over 40 seasons, the game has become much more complex. From the introduction of hidden immunity idols.
What? There's a little immunity idol about this big in a jungle that's this big.
To secret advantages.
Wasn't expecting Judd from Guatemala.
I know.
I
Guatemala
hold
shout
a
out.
piece of paper that says secret advantage. This is a huge win for me.
And game-changing twists.
Come on in.
Wait, what?
Your past has come back to haunt you.
Are you serious?
It's been back and forth, one of the best fire-making challenges we have ever had.
But one thing has remained the same. Players must learn to adapt or they'll be voted out.
Ozzy, tribe spoken.
Not Ozzy.
There's a history on Survivor. Every twist we've ever done, people have hated in the beginning. Going back to season 3, when we did the first tribe swap.
You guys can give me your buffs. Silas, Teresa, Frank, you guys are now members of Braun.
Oh my God.
Now, if tribes don't get a switch, they're upset. It was the same with the idol. It's the same with everything.
I ain't finished playing just yet.
8th person voted out of Survivor Samoa and the 2nd member of our jury, Kelly.
Survivor 41 is birthing a new era, starting with a much more dangerous 26-day game.
So that means it is a very fast pace. It does force the players to make bigger decisions. So there will be new advantages. And there will be some controversial twists. We're going to be doing things and let the audience in on things in ways we never have before. Bring them inside the game a little more and pose the question, now you have this information before the players do, what do you think you would do? There's also something I'm really excited about. It's called the Game Within the Game.
Game Within the Game is an interactive experience for junior future Survivor players, where they'll have to spot and solve rebus puzzles hidden within each episode.
Oog.
When it comes to twists on Survivor, the smart, aggressive players take it, adapt, and move on. Because the game is kind of like the monster in a horror movie. When it's chasing you in the kitchen, you don't stop and ask where it came from or how it got its powers. You just try to outwit it, outplay, outlast it. Because otherwise, if you don't kill the monster will kill you. So I'm trying to remind players, just keep moving and beat the game. It is fast. You got to earn everything. And even then, there's no guarantees that you'll keep it. That's Survivor right now. So buckle up.
What does he mean? There's no guarantee that you'll keep it.
I'm not sure.
Keep what?
I'm still hung up on the monster analogy. I know it's been so long, but like, I don't think I've ever heard him describe it that way. Of like, you don't know the monster's backstory. You don't know where they're coming from, why they have this ill will. You're just running from its knife.
Yeah. I mean, that would be very interesting if they stopped down and like did like a podcast talking about like, hold on, where did the monster come from? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Wasn't this? That's Joker though, isn't it? Like that's Cruella. That's all these movies that they're trying to do. It's essentially break down the monster.
Yeah, but just to go back to, I thought this was very interesting, but I feel like that Jeff presents a little bit of a false argument where he says that, look, every twist we've ever done people have hated in the beginning and then they come, but it doesn't necessarily mean that every single one was good. Like you're right that the audience is very reactionary, that nobody likes any change, people. So, and there have been things that were introduced that the audience did not like at first that turned out to be good ideas. But let's not also say that, you see, you always do this, but we're always right.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
always good. Everything is good. And, so I think we have a track record here of everything we've done has always been good. So just follow our lead on this.
No, the implication is like, well, you hated it first, but man, we wore you down, and now you finally accepted us into your lives. Like that shouldn't be the intention. The tribe swap, yes, we thought initially was unfair, but then like it's not like, oh, you came around to love it. While that might happen, that doesn't always happen with twists, right? That's why we don't have the medallion of power for 20 seasons running. There will be twists that, whether from a game mechanism or an implementation, don't work and we dislike at first. It's not just because we hate every single thing that falls into our laps.
Yeah. And that being said, I think that we are very willing to see what a 26-day season of Survivor looks like. And I think that that all sounds, fine if for the direction that they want to go. Like, I haven't heard anything yet, which is like, well, that's a non-starter for me.
Oh, yeah, so let's start with that then, because I think that is probably one of the bigger ticket items, probably the biggest departure, I would say, from previous seasons, is that
I would say that the thing, and I do want to give CBS and Survivor their flowers for this. I just want to say up front, like, that the biggest thing that I feel like that they did, and I feel like that they haven't done a good enough job of promoting, is the work they did with this cast, where this is the first time that we're getting to see the work that the former Survivor players really did a great job of working with CBS, that the different groups that met with CBS to make sure that now we have this diversity casting initiative at CBS, not just across Survivor, but also across all of the CBS reality shows, where we're going to get 50% of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color in each of these seasons of the show. And I think that that's really incredible that they were able to follow through on that. And this is like a really exciting cast. And I think that that's really that Survivor should be stopping to say, like, hey, well, look, first and foremost, we corrected this.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and I think the cast had been more so skewing towards that. We saw that with David versus Goliath and Island of the Idols a bit. But yeah, suffice it to say, last year was a really important time for, I think, Survivor and reality TV at large to, as you said, Rob, like, look itself in the mirror and say, how can we be better here? Because we are clearly not doing well for certain types of contestants. And I'm very glad that, look, are we jumping to the top of the steps? No, but it's a step in the landing. And I think that that's a big, big help in things, a foot in the door, if you will. I mean, not to fast forward too much into the cast in general, but like, this is a really exciting cross section of a cast, I would say. Even though, we're sort of straddling both sides of the age spectrum, it is an incredibly diverse cast in both age, in ethnicity, in story, especially. And yeah, this should be really hallmarked that this is the first Survivor season. We've had a Big Brother season since, a Love Island season since, but this is the first time since that diversity initiative has been put into effect. And so far, so good, in my opinion. And I do agree that it is interesting that the marketing so far has really highlighted, like, the game, the monster, etc., and yet to highlight, any big contestants from it, especially considering the stories that we're about to get into. But I'm assuming now that the cast is officially out, we're going to get those snatches of dialogue from these contestants moving forward.
Yeah, and looking forward to seeing it, because I think that that's the thing that, like, I feel like that people are most excited about. But I mean, let's see what we're going to find out here today.
All right, so let's get into the 26-day thing, because I think that is one of the biggest, headlines from this. Survivor for season 41 is going to be 26 days. I don't think we've received like an official explanation as to why. At least Jeff did not elaborate to me. I think the assumption for some people is that if they had to do a 2-week mandatory quarantine period due to COVID restrictions, that ate into their scheduling time, and so they decided to shorten the days. And so we are reducing it down by about a third, down to 26. What are your thoughts about this? Now, again, like you said, sight unseen. We don't know how this is actually going to implement itself, but what are your first thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten to officially talk about this. Certainly, like, these things get reported, and then people ask questions about the 26-day schedule. But to me, I never looked at this as a big deal. That for me, like, I thought of this as something where, like, I thought that we're trying to, and like, when I first heard this, like, hey, makes sense. Survivor, really, I feel like that since Survivor Go Wrong has tried to do more to keep the players safe. and keep players from getting dehydrated. We want to make sure that they have sustenance, because I'd always said that I don't think that players suffering is particularly interesting or compelling.
Well,
it's not why I watch the show.
We'll talk about that later then for you, Rob.
So that, to me, 26 days, sure, I feel like that makes sense. And also, I think that just in terms of like the production schedule, as somebody who has been out there are a lot of down days. And the worst days on Survivor, aside from the days that it rains, are the days when you have nothing to do. So, in classic Survivor, like the episode cycle would be, you'd have a reward challenge on the first day, then an off day to do interviews, and then an immunity challenge, and ultimately tribal council for the tribe that loses on the third day. Now, I think that, and it sounds like that they're going to be having fewer reward challenges, which I've actually said that is a good idea for years, because I feel like I'd rather see the camp life than what's going on at the reward challenges. So, I mean, if you had basically either a day with nothing, and then the second day was tribal council, then that would be probably, or you could do a reward, you could do a challenge and then a tribal council or an immunity challenge the next day. So to me, I don't think it's going to impact what you see on the screen at all, except maybe in the positive way of there being less reward challenges eating into camp life.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, and we'll get into this with the whole no theme thing, because I think with there not necessarily being like a secondary island to visit or to dedicate time to, which is the first time we'll be experiencing that really since Survivor David versus Goliath, we're going to have a lot more time with these people, ironically enough, in a shorter time frame. I do believe that we're still going to have the same number of episodes. I don't think it's going to lessen the number of episodes at all. It's just that each cycle, to your point, Rob, is probably going to take only about like 2 to maybe 1 day. And there is some precedent for this. So Survivor South Africa Champions, which is a 2014 season that I recently covered with Shannon Gus, I think ran for 27 days, perhaps. And the post-merge, they had tribal council every single day. They would wake up, challenge, strategize, tribal council. And while that is just a rigorous process to go through, it did sort of constantly keep them in the mindset of like, I guess to give Jeff's credit here to his metaphor, like just keep moving, just keep going through it. I think it's going to depend on the cast as to, are they going to really, lap up that idea of they're constantly having to be something to do. I don't want to do away with downtime necessarily for like the sake of the mental health of this cast. I'm not going to completely throw away the idea. I have seen people, understandably so, right, be like, oh, this, put an asterisk next to winners. This is not the right game. If that's the case, technically speaking, the first 2 winners of Australian Survivor are the greatest Survivor players of all time, if we're just going really by numbers, because they played for 55 days. I think you can't really judge people quantifiably on this show. I think if they win the season, they win the season, no matter how many days it is. So I'm personally waiting to see how the cast makes use of the time frame. If it turns out that it's just too all over the place and really just denigrates them, where they're like, we need a break, give me a reward challenge to get away, then maybe it's like, yeah, the hurry up offense is not necessarily working here. But in the moment, I do not think it's going to reflect that differently on us as the viewer.
Yeah, and Matt in the chat is saying this as well, but I also think that the storylines get so complicated where, like, in a 3-day episode cycle, the person who's going home might change 9 times. It might be this, go, and you can't tell that story anymore on television. So having a little less time between tribal councils might also help the storytelling in some ways also.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Is, I mean, again, it's given the cast. I've seen people who have 2 days to plan completely come up with a bunch of different plans. I've seen people who have 1 day to plan come up with a bunch of different plans. I will say, unfortunately, I think I would not be surprised if we get like twice as much tribal council whispering this time around, because with less time to plan, they're just like, well, we'll wait and see what happens at tribal council. Though what I will say is everyone on the social media streets, prepare yourselves, because the alumni are going to be coming out. And we're going to get a lot of like, back in my day, we only went for 39 days. We didn't go for no 26. So just be prepared for those opinions. It's understandable. As a Survivor alumni, you want to come across like your experience is valid, especially compared to other people. But yeah, I would not be surprised if the opinion starts being bandied about of 26 days, WTF. This 8th place person would have won if that happened on this season.
Yeah. You know what I call a person who wins Survivor in a 26-day season?
Who's that?
Efficient.
I did in 26 days what Sandra did in 39. Look at me.
Right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, the Dodgers won the World Series in a 60-game season. Come on.
So we shall see. It's I can understand why it's maybe something to be fearful of because it is such a big shrinking as well. I do think if it was like 39 down to like 33 or 32, it would maybe be less of a drastic shift from 39 down to 26. I mean, in Tony terms, that's like 3 weeks. So it's a little bit of a
play on the weekends.
Exactly. It's a big shift, but I'm waiting to see how this cast is going to handle it because I think it has the possibility to create some like very exciting run around the place gameplay of like, we have no time to lose at this moment. I'm only guaranteed to see tomorrow. So let me try to swing for the fences right now.
Okay. I think we can live with the 26-day schedule. I really think that once the game gets going, I don't think you're going to notice a difference.
Well, let's talk about another thing that's overarching in this season, which is there is no overarching thing for this season, Rob. For the first time in quite some time, since the days of like Survivor Samoa, there is no theme to Survivor 41. In fact, Survivor 41 is titled Survivor 41.
Yeah. I don't know if I love Survivor 41 as the title of the show. Like, I think they probably could have gone with Survivor 2021.
Or like Survivor A New Start or something, right? Like makes a great license play. Maybe something with the words. I've seen people argue that it is a little weird that we've had only word subtitles and now we're just switching to numbers. It's a little strange. It's almost like when you title movies, right? And you try to like, you've watched the Fast and the Furious series, Rob. It's very much in that regard of like, okay, I guess now we're starting to throw numbers in. It can be a little confusing. So naming conventions aside, though, I am happy that they're not having a theme for Survivor 41. I'll admit to it.
I love it. Yeah, I love it because then you have to shoehorn everything through the theme. And as somebody who has watched almost every single season of the show in 2021, that there's just so many times where that they're just like every question of tribal council is like through the prism of the theme, and I think that Jeff says this in his interview with you of like they don't like talk about the NFL season based on like some arbitrary theme that they come up with. It's just that this is the season that happened this year.
Yeah, so Jeff said, there is not a formal theme for Survivor 41. In birthing a new era of Survivor, we are letting go, for now at least, of casting themes or seasons built around a specific twist. Those ideas served us very well for 20 years, but now it's time for something new. The new players in the gameplay will define each season, much like a Super Bowl or any other regular sporting event, which I like. That is very much an old school mentality to me, right? Where like the title of the season was more so indicative of the location, maybe a casting twist like you experienced in your first season, but not necessarily like Survivor, this is the place that has the advantages. And so from that perspective, that makes me excited because I hope that means the storytelling is going to allow us to focus more on the people proper than like, well, how do people interact within these casting boundaries? Or how do they interact with this secondary place that they're going to? I think it's going to be an opportunity to just sort of like let the players play out and then tell their story instead of having to put it through a lens. And to be honest, I think it's going to kind of be a win-win because either they do this or they come up with another theme and what's happened the past few years happens again where the social media kind of like slam dunks on them, right? Of like, oh my God, heroes, healers, hustlers, game changers. What are these themes? And it's like, well, if that's the case, then might as well not come up with the theme so that people don't necessarily mock you for it.
Right. I mean, it has been talked to death of, the themes are bad because it's like, it's this versus this. And then the entire world, there's only two types of people in this world. And you don't need it. They can always do a theme in the future for an all-star season, or if they have some other like great idea for a theme. But that in a season where you're trying to figure out where the show is going, like don't attach it to a theme.
Yeah, exactly. And again, again, I don't think Jeff has said the back to basics thing, but it is this idea of, all right, like we have this cast full of really excited people, let's just see what they do on the island. And they're going to be doing a lot, Rob, because I guess I'll correct what I said before. If there is a theme to Survivor 41, it is danger. This is the most dangerous season that's ever existed.
So this is the part that really blows my mind, where that we waited so long to come back. And of course, we are still, look, I mean, it's not my call, but I think I'm going to say it, still in a pandemic.
Yeah.
I didn't see when they ended it. And it seems like that you would say like, hey, maybe let's take the foot off the gas right now.
Yeah, let's make things. Everyone's had a tough time. Let's not say you'll wish you were in quarantine now. You better be praying for mass at this point. So this is, they have marketed it as a season specifically full of danger. Now, I don't think this means like you can only sleep on a scorpion's nest or like
a bed of nails.
You have to gobble fish guts. That's the only sustenance you get all season long. Not from that perspective. But they are actually going, again, fairly old school. Well, actually, a little bit on Survivor Ghost Island, they tried this as well. Jeff Probst is adamant to say they are going super minimal on supplies. They are not getting daily food rations. They have to find, scavenge, catch what they want to eat. As you mentioned, reward challenges will be scarce, so they will be like groveling for any morsel of food they can get. I mean, Rob, they better be wishing for like an Angelina type to come in there and start bartering with Jeff to get their food.
Well, honestly, I think that the Angelina trade negotiation, and I also think that it happened in Survivor Ghost Island, where I think that the survivors were starting to get a little wise to the game of like, yeah, let's just eat the rice, and then they're not going to let us die. But if they don't give them rice, they can't ask for more because they didn't get it in the first place.
Exactly. They're like, listen, this bank is closed. Like you cannot withdraw anything from us at this point. The ATM is closed off at this moment. So what makes me, I have a couple of hands about this, a couple of Russell hands. On the one hand, I am nervous because I do not want to put people in physical and medical danger. Like you said, great, we're reducing the number of days. That means that people are not like out there on the last legs of their life until we deplete them of food, in which case that might accelerate the very thing that we're trying to prevent. But what this makes me hopeful for is that I want to see survival scenes again in terms of storytelling. And it's weird to say because I know that they're often not the most interesting things, but I think it's something we have been lacking the past several seasons. Because at this point, it's like, how many times have we seen someone split a vote? It happens every season. We haven't really seen any new amalgamations of it. It's a tried and true storyline that I think is completely played out. But it's been a long time, in my opinion, since we've had like someone attempts to go fishing. And what does that mean for the tribe as a provider? I think survival scenes, camp life scenes are really great in terms of storytelling and characterization because everyone's going to have a different reaction to what's going on in camp. Right? Like, depending on who you are you going to step up and do something? Will you be the one complaining about the person stepping up and doing something? Are you going to hide food? Are you going to be the one to lay around and do nothing? Through those camp life scenes, that was really an old school Survivor, how we really got to know these castaways. It wasn't through strategy. It was more so through those camp life moments. And look, this may not be the case, but if they are trying to, especially if they're not necessarily focusing on any other twisty things and more so focusing on like, these people have nothing, they've got to start from scratch. I hope this means we get more scenes of people interacting around camp, and that's how we get to know them, rather than through like a strategy first lens.
I also talked about this in the Survivor Winners at War on the countdown. I believe it was the number 7 best season of all time, where that I felt like that the moments of Ethan carrying the log on the edge of extinction and carrying the coconuts on the coconut chop or the coconut challenge, where the survivors had to push themselves to a point where they had like breakthroughs talking about themselves. It happens again at the end of the season where Jeff talks about how, at tribal council, that Survivor, what he thinks is this game that is where people push themselves to the point that they have personal breakthroughs. And I really think that is where the show wants to go, where we're going to bring these interesting people out here and basically like push them to the point that they have these revelations about like these life-altering moments where they're thinking about their life and what it means to be out there on Survivor. I think that's what the show is hoping for.
I mean, that makes sense, right? At the end of a horror movie, the last girl is like, wow, I really look upon life in a brand new way. I'm not going to take anything for granted now that Freddy Krueger chased me throughout my house and killed all my friends. You know, YOLO.
Never go to sleep. Yeah, always be out there living, not sleeping.
It's a good point. And, I would not be surprised if we get some more of those types of emotional moments. Jeff told me that he when talking about this cast in general, he said that, much like a cast like Millennials versus Gen X, it was a group of people that like had an appreciation for each other. He basically said, even at tribal council where things are often intense, there was a sense of humanity. Don't get me wrong, blind sides are brutal this season, but the difference is after someone was voted out, they often thanked the other players for the great gameplay. For me, that is the ultimate version of Survivor, where you can play as hard as possible, but still not take it personally. So it's interesting as well, though, to not only speak about that arduousness, like personal breakthrough moment, but I think we're going to see a lot of camaraderie as well, right? Of like, hey, we pushed through a COVID season of Survivor where we were given nothing. This is a cool experience. It's a tough experience, but like we're the only ones to do so.
True, but also, Mike, it could speak to the fact that maybe they made the game too hard, where people get voted out like, thank you.
Oh, please,
my God.
please.
Thank you. You will never know how much I appreciate this. All right, you guys take care. Thank you again. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Then Jeff becomes like the Dr. Kevorkian of reality TV. I'm just like, please, I need to go right now. I cannot catch my own food anymore.
So, we'll see how it goes. All right. What else do we know at this hour?
Okay, so on that note, let's talk about some like strategy and advantages. Now Jeff was a little vague in what he was talking about with me, but when talking about the shift to 26 days, he basically talked about, how, again, it's going to be a very scary season. I'm surprised this season didn't premiere in October, considering that apparently it's going to be the spookiest season of Survivor ever. But evidently, he said, as I mentioned before, the tribes are not given any daily food staple and reward challenges are scarce. This has a tremendous impact immediately as their mental and physical energy is instantly challenged. Tribes are very small throughout the season, which makes tribal council even scarier because there's nowhere to hide. And votes are often at risk, which means you can't ever rely on how many votes your alliance will have at any tribal council. Any advantages now often come with a massive risk. In order to earn an advantage, you have to successfully navigate something risky. This is a new version of Survivor. There is no way to compare past seasons. So let's talk about that a little bit. Because again, not exactly any details to come from that, but I think there are a couple things we could discern from that. First, tribes staying very small. I think with 18 castaways, we can assume 3 tribes of 6. And it's safe to say they're probably going to be staying that way throughout the pre-merge.
Well, Jeff says we're going to have small tribes throughout the season. Are we not going to have a merge?
I don't know if they go that far, especially with a 26-day season. Maybe a later merge from that perspective. I'm not entirely sure. That'd be interesting if they just never have one, and then who ends up sort of the final 3 people who happen to survive at the end of just whatever this bloody 3-way war is.
Could you imagine? You have basically some versions of Oolong where it's basically like you get it down from 6 to 1, and then you end up joining one of the other tribes.
That'd be interesting if it's like, all right, you're playing for Danny. Survivor's ready, go. They want to know what you're playing for. Him. That's the guy. That would certainly be interesting. But the smaller gameplay, I mean, look, you played on a small tribe, Rob. I know that you say personally that you like the bigger tribes.
Yeah.
What do you imagine from like an overall gameplay perspective about the idea of at least 6-person tribes at the most for the majority of the game?
Well, I think it's a good way to start, but I think that you are going to end up with like very predictable scenarios the longer that you're. I mean, once after you have your first vote, and then maybe you have a surprise like at 5, I think that things are sort of like cast in stone. I mean, it turned out that, Oolong had some interesting votes and things went in some different directions. But I kind of feel like that, it's exciting because can't have a big group who can come in at the merge and be able to dominate. But I think that it starts to get a little like the foregone conclusion when these groups go to tribal council about who is going to go home.
Now, that brings in, though, the second thing that Jeff mentioned to me, right? Was this idea of sometimes you might not know how many votes there are. And so you can't rely on, a specific number of votes at every tribal council. Maybe that's their way to try to repair this a bit, right? Of like, if there's an alliance of 4 that's ruling the tribe, maybe there are things. And again, this is me completely just throwing things out there. I have no idea. Could this be more stuff like what we saw in Survivor 35, for an example? Devins, this is not an advantage where like you could block someone's vote or you can steal someone's vote. Maybe we'll see that pop up more. Or, later in the article, as I mentioned, he says, sometimes you have to give up things for advantages. Could there be people sacrificing their votes to get advantages?
Well, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yes. So maybe they're trying to like balance that out by saying, well, people might be selfish, make decisions to sort of even up any sort of numbers. My hope is if we do, so we start with 18, my hope is we do some sort of swap at like 15, 14, maybe. We just need one swap. It can still be to 3 tribes like they did with Triple H, but I agree. I think if we're sticking in 3 tribes for the entirety of the pre-merge, I'd like to shake it up a little bit, and especially bringing together groups from 3 tribes, I think is a more interesting mixture than 2 tribes. Because with 2 tribes, right, it's like, all right, it's Navidi versus Mololo. How many people are on each side? With 3 tribes, it's like, okay, we have these two, and then this person in the middle. There's a little bit more at play there. So that's my personal hope.
Okay. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. So do you have any other thoughts about the whole, the massive risks associated with advantages? Do you think we're going to have any more sneak into somebody else's camp under the dead of night?
I suspect not, but, I feel like this is the kind of thing we have to see in practice, ultimately, where there could be good executions of this and bad executions of this.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to see if we get something every episode. That's something that popped up on the most recent season of Survivor South Africa, is that like they had a location to visit where every episode there was an advantage and a disadvantage. I don't know if we're getting it every episode. I personally would prefer we don't, just so we don't get an advantage get in. Though with Jeff sort of like pumping up the advantages in that video that we watched, it makes me feel like there's going to be at least a good chunk of them in the game.
They can't help it. They can't help it. Mike, I know the premiere is going to be 2 hours, correct?
That is correct. And I think some people were speculating what that's going to mean. I gotta think it's 2 one-hour episodes. I gotta think it's like what they did with Cagayan, what they did with Ghost Island, even what they did with Winners at War a little bit, right? Of just, hey, these are 2 one-hour episodes, because I think of all the seasons, I don't think they're going to make the one that's 26 days, 15 episodes instead of 14. I don't think they're necessarily going to be like, well, we got to build out this big 2-hour premiere for this specific group of people. As much as I enjoy this cast, I don't know if they're necessarily worth the 2-hour premiere.
Okay. We'll see.
So yes. So I think expect a double boot. That is to say, like one hour, one tribal council, another hour, another tribal council, with two people voted out to start the game.
So what else do you have for us, Mike?
Well, let's talk a little bit about, do you want to talk about the game within the game, Rob?
Yeah, because I'm very confused about the game within the game.
So it's really simple. After a person's voted out, they walk to Ponderosa, and then Jeff Probst is going to appear on a screen, dragged up, being like, "Hey, kitty girl, you think your torch was snuffed, but it's about to get lit in here. The game within a game starts." No, this has nothing to do with RuPaul's Drag Race, which actually just did a Redemption Island style game device called The Game Within a Game. Evidently, it is a way for younger people to, quote unquote, play along at home in Survivor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, look, as a parent, I'm interested that my son has been watching Big Brother this season. So I think that on paper sounds good. Do I have to find a hidden puzzle in the episode?
Right. So apparently what happens is in the episode, there's going to be almost like hidden Mickeys, at Disney World. There's going to be a hidden Rebus puzzle. And for those of you that did not like drink that specific type of beer in high school or follow those puzzles when you were kids, a Rebus puzzle is a phrase that you figure out by like discerning images, right? It's like the one that we saw was foot minus T plus G, which I guess is fug. I don't know what fug is.
Wait,
but
hold on. I wasn't even looking for the puzzle. So foot minus T plus G?
Yeah, I think it's fug. Maybe I'm just stupid and someone else can inform me on it, but I thought it was
Fuji.
Fuji?
Yeah.
But it's Fiji.
Wyclef and Lauryn Hill are going to be here.
Oh, you know what? No, you know what? Is it feet? Feet minus
Fiji.
Fiji.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There we go.
Kids,
we got
get in here. We're having fun.
You got it. You got the prize. Now, I am intrigued by this of what the game within the game means, right? Because, like, Jeff seemed to say that you could play along and, like, you'll have some sort of impact on the game. I don't know if this is like a, spot it and tweet it to @CBS Survivor to put yourself in a drawing for a buff. I don't know if this is like the Christmas Story, be sure to drink your Ovaltine thing where, like, there really is no prize at the end of it.
The sponsor, yeah. Tell your parents to take you to Fiji.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, please go to Fiji, right? And well, not right now, but at some point, Fiji Airways will take you. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's really interesting, especially watching Pearl Islands this past week in lieu of the RHAP countdown to think of like, they're really marketing this show for families, which they would not have done back in the early 2000s to see the metamorphosis that they've undergone here. But we know Jeff Probst loves the family viewing experience watching Survivor. And so now we know that kids love challenges. This is a way for them to sort of pay attention to one specific thing in the challenges.
Kids, Mike, if there's anything I've learned, kids love Rebus puzzles. They're always like, Dad, more Rebus, please.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, a couple of years ago he died, so we can't give you any more Rebus. So yeah, this completely came out of nowhere. I have no idea. Like Jeff alluded to in my interview that like, it culminates at the end of the season and connects directly back to the real game with the players. I have no clue what that means.
I don't know. I don't know. Like the game within the game. Like I don't know how much time. Maybe we need its own podcast for the game within the game. But let's not worry about that right now.
No, it's a really interesting. It's almost like an ARG experience, right? Of like hey, scan this QR code while you're watching it, be transported to a brand new experience. That feels like what they're doing here on Survivor. And I will say, I guess, good on the art department. I don't know if the Rebus puzzle has to be superimposed afterwards or if these poor woodcrafters have to like, all right, I guess I have to carve the feet prints into this catapult structure so that these kids can notice this at home.
Yeah, maybe some of the listeners can draw some Rebus puzzles for us. And if they're good, we'll retweet them.
Oh, I love that. Can people draw Rebus
along.
Puzzles about contestants from this season, right? Yeah. Be like, oh, I wouldn't say football because then I just say Danny McRae, but like something associated with them. And then you have to guess who the survivor is associated with that Rebus puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So yeah, that's the game within the game. Other than that, Jeff said in his video that he was going to, quote, let us in on twists ahead of time. Not
Okay.
I don't know
Maybe-
what that means.
Do you think it could be like a throwback to like the Borneo where Jeff's like,
Yeah.
this is tribal council every 3 days. They're going to come here. Like, do you think that we'll get like a little bit of a setup? Because I really feel like that, having a narrator, like that's one of the things I've learned from this Survivor rewatch, to be able to explain what's going on really does help you feel like you are more connected with the show.
Yeah, that's the thing is for those that don't remember, back in Borneo, interstitials, since nobody knew about the game, let alone the game within the game, we had the nice like, oh, and then Jeff says, this is tree mail, where people go to get mail about the next challenge. Like Jeff had to look directly into the camera and Ferris Bueller us. And obviously now the game has gotten so meta where the players can essentially do that for us. Maybe we're bringing that back now. Maybe Jeff Probst is, all right, kids. He's going to get real close to the camera like, I got a secret for you. There's going to be a swap in this episode. Don't tell them, though. I don't know. Is this going to be more Blues Clues?
He's like, yeah, children's television host. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Probst, the Explorer.
Did you hear that? Oh, that's the tribal council doorbell. The tribe must be here. Come on, let's let him in. Come on in, guys.
Yeah, they didn't show us the tribal council design. Could this be Jeff Probst's funhouse? The secret word is blindside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have no idea. This is a really interesting thing, and I guess we'll see when the first twist comes into play. But I know Jeff said, right, that he wanted to, like, do it to suggest the thought experiment to us as to what we would do. Maybe that'll inform the tribal council questions, right? He'll be like, Brad, are you able to trust Tiffany after what happened? What do you think, audience? Should Brad trust Tiffany right now?
I mean, Mike, are we actually evolving Survivor into a children's television show? Is that where this is all going?
Big Brother's already gotten there. I don't want to take that train to that station.
There's a monster. There's puzzles for kids. Jeff is talking to the audience at home.
Does that mean that, like, now they can only subsist on, like, I don't know, snack cakes, slime gets dumped on you and snuffs your torch out? There's a studio audience that serves as the jury and laughs at everything you do. I'm not sure. But yeah, if we are catering to that denominator, it's a certain direction for the show to go in, but also at the same time, extreme starvation and deprivation, too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, we're getting closer to those 16-year-olds getting on the show, too, Mike.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, let's actually talk about our cast here because, again, we're going to do some more surface level thoughts here. We're going to have much bigger thoughts in our cast previews. That's where we're going to get interviews in podcast form, in written form, in bio form as well. But speaking of, youngins, Rob, for the first time ever in Survivor history, everyone's going to feel old. We have contestants on who are younger than the show itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there are a couple of people here born after Survivor aired. I'm sure this makes people sort of like look in the mirror a la Jamie Lee Curtis and Freaky Friday, make themselves feel like the Crypt Keeper. But yeah, it's a weird thing to think about. It's like a milestone has been crossed, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it can make you feel superior if you get into an argument with one of these people. It's like, oh, really? I was watching this show when you were an embryo.
Yeah, that's the thing. Or did it make you feel worse, right? Like when you're talking with Gen Z, sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, you guys had to, I don't know, call movie phone to get times for a movie. They're like, wait, you guys had to like text Sprint for your fan favorite of the season? Ugh,
no, that
sounds so grody.
This year, Mike, that was Big Brother. You were watching Big Brother 23.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But yeah, it'd be interesting to be like, what was it like watching Richard Hatch on TV? It's like, oh, God, I feel so old now.
Yeah.
The good news is there's a few of them. So we don't have like a Will Wall, Michael Yerger situation where like one of them really sticks out like a sore thumb. If anything, there's now a gaggle of these Gen Zers to be like, hey, we're 2000s babies and we're ready to take on Survivor, baby.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's right. And these Gen Zers, they want to get Survivor done in 26 days. They're not going to do it in 39 days like we had to back in my day.
Oh, so do you think when all the alumni start tweeting, like, can't believe it's only 26 days, like the Gen Zs are going to organize the fan base to just respond, okay, boomer, in profound effect to them?
Yeah, it's like the TikTok of seasons.
The TikTok of seasons.
Just like shorter, more
all
compact.
Right, we're doing the no rice challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the game
challenge.
the game within the game, the Rebus challenge.
Extreme, very extreme.
Yeah, listen, got to listen. The Gen Z is becoming a more and more pivotal part of demos, so I guess you got to bring them in somehow, including our contestants. So yeah, despite that though, we have a good swath of students. We have a good swath of older contestants. I have not done the stats on this, but on average, this might be the oldest non-returnee cast we have ever had.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people in their 50s, in their 40s, even late 30s. So like, there's a good spectrum of people. Like, yes, there are quite a number weighting it down in their early 20s, but I wonder if, you know, maybe spurred on by the casting of some of the older people in like Survivor 39, for instance. Like I know Janet, for example, huge inspiration to a lot of people. I do wonder how many older contestants were like, you know what, I'll go out for this. Like, yeah, 50 is the new 30. I'm going to go out here and play Survivor, because that attitude feels certainly reflected in the casting this season, which is really exciting.
I mean, Mike, you personally have said Tom Laidlaw has been a huge inspiration on one of your role models.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Listen, from Connecticut, you know, I am also a prolific hockey player. Apparently there is a Mike Bloom who's a hockey player. So yeah, maybe that's not too far away.
Well, I will say that Tom Laidlaw did lay the groundwork for us to have more Canadian contestants this season.
Yeah, more Canadian contestants. I believe we have 3. I believe one person is like the specific one to have only Canadian citizenship. I believe Tom Laidlaw only had a couple, and a bunch of other things as well. We have one contestant is deaf in one ear, and I know he's wanting to do it to you know, show that despite his you know, hearing incapabilities, he's still able to play Survivor. That's something we haven't experienced since Nina, all the way back in season 30, and then your Christy Smith before that. So I really do feel like it's a really interesting swath of stories across these 18 people, and I really cannot wait to get to know them, get to talk about them, and get to watch them play.
Should we take a quick look at the 18 people and maybe 1 or 2 interesting facts from each person?
Yeah, let's do a little like aperitif about Survivor 41 right now.
Just a little bit, if you haven't gotten the chance to see anything that Mike has put out today, or Dalton Ross, or any of the other Survivor media members. We're just gonna real quick have a little bit of a little sampling. Okay.
Yeah,
I believe these are in alphabetical order by first name.
That is correct, because we do not have tribe designations, much like Survivor 40 did. So we're just going down the alphabet here.
Okay. Brad, he is also a history record-breaking survivor. He is the first Wyoming survivor.
Yes. Was it Brad Reese?
You know Holly Allen?
Yeah, Brad Reese, 50, Wyoming. Yeah, that is Brad. Brad is a rancher. He's a tall son of a gun. I think he's like 6'5", he said. But he does not brand himself as your typical rancher. He said that he is very multifaceted. He admittedly kind of looks like a bit of a goofball. So he's here to do it for Wyoming, though, to your point. Only a few contestants from several states have not participated in Survivor. And finally, after 20 years, the first contestant from Wyoming is on the show.
Okay, he made it. All right, congratulations to the state of Wyoming for getting us Brad Reese. All right, let's go to our next person. Here's Danny McRae. He is a 33-year-old ex-NFL player.
Yeah, so I believe he was a safety, I think. Maybe defense or special teams for a little bit.
Or offense, yeah.
On the Cowboys. So he's retired now. During his time since NFL, he's like, let me find something to do. He found Survivor, and here he is right now. And Danny's MO going into the game is he wants to redefine what a threat is. He knows that he looks threatening at the moment, and he essentially wants to change the game as to who should be looked at as a threat.
Well, he should just tell people that he was on the Cowboys. They won't. I'm joking.
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know how many Texans are actually on this season, so I don't know how much offense they would take to him saying that.
Yeah. Interesting. I think he is a defensive back, which I believe Alan Ball was also the same position. So I don't know why Survivor seems like they're
I
really
mean, listen, and they're in
on...
Fiji. So does that mean Danny's going to start telling people to? He's going to start strip searching people for idols on the first night? Maybe it's just in the blood in that regard.
Like, yeah, we're only looking for NFL players who played in the secondary. So
now with the Cowboys, though, do you think Danny received some coaching from Jimmy Johnson before coming out to play?
I don't think so. I don't think he was there at the same time. I'm trying to see if he was there at the same time as Alan Ball was.
Yeah, I'm probably not. I would imagine if Jimmy Johnson gave any sort of knowledge pregame, it would be more so about extends than playing on Survivor.
Yeah. Oh no. I think there might have been an overlap. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll find the answer to that question one day. All right, but that's Danny McRae.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. The second McRae on CBS reality TV. All right. David, how do we pronounce this? David Voce?
I guess Voce or Vos, like Vice with an O. I'm not entirely sure, but David is a neurosurgeon. So we can finally find out, Rob, which is harder, Survivor or brain surgery?
Well, wasn't Sean Caniff also a neurosurgeon?
Was he? I thought he was just like a regular doctor. I didn't even realize that. So, I mean, if David's going to start, I mean, maybe he'll go in a similar way we did, start breaking down people in alphabetical order in that regard. But David is someone who is a bit of an intense study of the game, but feels like his skills are incredibly vital, especially given the past year. He is used to dealing with people when they are at their emotionally lowest and being able to divorce, emotions from logic from that perspective. And he promises he's also going to be very cutting in the confessional, maybe not so much to his fellow castaways.
Yes, I was going to say, like he's in the operating room.
Yeah, exactly. Got to keep that scalpel sharp, but only to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. David seems like, from at first glance, as close as we're going to get to maybe the villain in this season.
He's at least someone that I think is going to be like, this is what I'm planning to do. I'm planning to be cutthroat. I think everyone sort of has that idea of like, yeah, I'll get rid of this person. I'll get rid of that person. But I think David is someone coming in to be like, this game was made for me. And I know this game is about, breaking hearts and leaving them in your wake as you step over them tenderfoot.
All right. Well, I do love an evil doctor.
Exactly. And this one is going to be your neighbor sometime soon.
Okay. All right. How about Deshawn Radin? He's a medical student that he is living in Miami, Florida.
Yeah, so Deshawn is, I guess we're going from neurosurgeon to medical student, so maybe they'll have that in common if they're on the same tribe. So yeah, Deshawn is someone who also wants to present himself in a bit of a two-faced manner. He is going to be very friendly, very nice to the contestants as he's playing. But in confessional, he is, and this is self-branded, #DeviousDrad, where he is just going to absolutely cut everyone up and be an absolute villain.
Okay. Devious D-Rad.
Yeah, that's apparently how he's going to be branding himself. I'm not sure if this is going to be like a DK Chillin thing where he's going to attempt to bring it into the show, but like this is the persona that is going to come out. Is Devious D-Rad is going to be one of those. We'll see. He might be one of those villains where you're like, why aren't they getting rid of this a-hole? But he's like such a peach to everyone else and more of a piece of rotten fruit to us at home.
Devious. All right. Let's talk about Eric.
Eric Abraham. Interestingly enough, I'm not sure what names they're going to go with on the show. In my interview, he wanted to go by his last name. He introduced himself as Abraham. So we shall see if they
like a real Kyle Jason.
Yeah, exactly. 2 first names. Can you trust either one of them? So Eric is a cybersecurity analysis, but he's also a former college professor. Which he thinks is probably going to be the most practical experience for him in the game. He's being used to working with all types of, used to working with the youths, to maintaining a schedule. Speaking of Tom Laidlaw, Eric has the most attitude out of this cast of the like tribe strong, let's just work hard to pick off the weak mentality. He says that this is like a marathon. Let's not go too big too early. Maybe not the right approach for a 26-day game.
A little bit more of a sprint, no?
Yeah, and even more so than like now we've gone from a sprint to like an Olympics, like once around the track type of sprint. So we'll see if that attitude necessarily fits in with this group of players for Abraham.
Okay. Let's talk about Erica.
Yes, our first woman here, and first Canadian as well. This is Erica. She is from Toronto, and she is someone who maybe has a little bit of an unassuming appearance. As she says, she stands at 5'0". She has purple hair, but she hopes from that perspective that she will be underestimated and be able to turn that purple hair green with cash by the end of it.
Wow. She's going to have so much money, she's going to have to keep it in her hair.
Oh, yeah, much like idols.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, that's incredible. Erica is living the dream. I tweeted this out that they asked her, what past survivor will you play the game most like? And she said, Brenda on the outside, Todd underneath. Brenda is physically strong, socially aware, and not afraid to show her teeth. I guess, or Dawn's either.
Oh, I love it. I really hope that's a purposeful reference from Erica. I will say overall, we're going to get into this much more with the bios, but a lot of old school shout outs. Really not a lot of like your typical Parvati, Kelly Wentworth mentions. I would say more so the Parvati of this cast is Todd Herzog. Congratulations, Todd. You're the new Parvati.
A lot of mentions of Todd. And really, if the people on this season didn't get the chance to binge a lot of Survivor before they went to go play, I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I truly, like, you had nothing but time on your hands and you knew you were coming to play Survivor. In fact, I believe Erica's going to reveal that she was actually supposed to be on Survivor 41 back when it was supposed to be filming.
One of the OGs.
In a couple of people were that way. She was filming back in March 2020. So she has this weird sort of experience, right? Where she's like pumped up, ready to play, full start. If we're going back to the running example, like, okay, now you have to reset on the blocks. I'm not sure how that's going to affect the way that she views the game, but I'm very excited for Erica to bear those teeth, and hopefully they don't get taken from her.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay. Up next, is this Evie?
Evie Jagoda. I love Evie. Evie is a PhD student. Evie is incredibly outspoken. Evie is going to, rock a quirky fashion sense. They're going to be wearing a button-down shirt and a bow tie, I think, or like a skinny tie, I believe, is in the cast photo. And Evie's goal is quite simple: become the first queer woman to win Survivor.
It's a good goal.
It's a fantastic goal.
Strong goal.
Yeah, Evie's very headstrong, very well studied. Evie is a recent convert to the show, but we'll talk about this. And Evie's bio is just like dropping references nonstop. Has some very strong views. If you read Evie's bio in particular, I believe Evie's pet peeve is men. So no matter what, we're going to be getting incredible content out of Evie.
Okay. All right. Mike, let's talk about Genie.
Yes, I dream of Genie in Fiji. This is Genie Chen. She is a 46-year-old grocery clerk. She's done a lot of odd jobs here and there. And so she is now coming in feeling like, I've got customer service under my belt. I've dealt with the Karens. I can deal with Survivor.
Is that a quote?
No, that's a Mike Bloom original. Would that be a great promo? Like, I've dealt with the Karens. I could deal with Survivor.
Get that on the out of context Twitter.
I just love that answer of like, why do you think you'll win Survivor? Well, listen, I've dealt with the Karens. Enough said. Mic drop.
Look, that's a good first step.
Absolutely. But Genie is incredibly unique. She comes in here, like, she comes in really ready to just embrace everything head first. She's just been like through so many different experiences. Like, she spent a year in college working at a fishery company in Alaska. She is someone who I think sort of goes wherever the wind takes her. But she is someone who is ready to just sort of fully embrace this experience, whatever it may hold. And I think she's going to be like a really joyous persona to have no matter what comes her way.
Okay. Let's look at Heather.
Yes, Heather is a stay-at-home mom, which will be good in this case, considering that she's probably dealing with some people on this season who are like not too far apart from the age of her children.
Mm-hmm.
So she is someone who has, despite, currently being a stay-at-home mom, she's 52 years old. She has done so many things throughout. She used to buy and flip properties. She used to work in real estate. So I think she has a very storied life, and she has her own goal, much like Evie did. She wants to become the oldest female winner in Survivor history.
It's a good goal.
Again, these are great goals to set. I do like that idea, though, like this goalpost thing of it's not just winning the $1 million. I do think for some people there is almost like another agenda to it as well, of representation. And I do also like that Heather, spoiler alert, is not going to be we just saw this with Genie, is not going to be the only older woman out there to feel like she has to alone represent this demo. But the fact that she wants to come in here and do that, I think is really cool, especially to represent for somebody who, may not come from the career path that is like the most conducive to Survivor. She wants to show that moms can get it done, and how.
All right. Let's see what happens with Heather. And this is Jairus?
So I believe it's Jairus, like Cyrus with a J, but in my interviews, he calls himself JD. So frankly, IDK.
Where's the D come from?
I'm assuming his middle name.
Oh, maybe.
But Jairus is a college student from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I believe he is the youngest person this season at 20 years old. But he does so much. He's a college tour guide. He works as an assistant kindergarten teacher. He volunteers at the hospital as well. And so he is someone who is involved in a lot of extracurriculars. And I think he is someone who's looking to say, like, as much as my age might dictate how you view me, I am someone who is studied enough and experienced enough that I can talk with people who's really in any part of the world.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize he was so young when I was reading his bio before.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think he's one of those people that, like, yes, you look at the age, but he has either lived an extensive life or just has experienced a lot more than maybe you might think when you think 20 years old. Sort of like what happened with Michael Yerger, right? Where, like, he had been living on his own for some time and had gained maybe a bit more of a world perspective than you may think for someone who has the same number in his date of birth.
Okay. Let's talk about Lyanna.
Yes,
First Survivor Lyanna.
I love me a Lyanna. Lyanna is a college student. She goes to Georgetown. I think she might be the youngest. It's her or Jairus. They're both 20 years old at this moment. But she is someone who has been a lifelong Survivor fan with her family, to the point where she and her brothers would play games of Survivor with candles instead of torches. So you can tell, like, the love.
Gotta be careful with that, kids.
Yeah, exactly. Especially around Hanukkah. Those are holy instruments. And so I think that, it'll be interesting to see someone who has as young as she is, someone with a lifelong passion for the game, quite literally. Is it something that can help her in this game, or could it be something that leaves her starstruck?
Okay. Let's take a look at Nasir.
Yeah, Nasir, really unique character. So Nasir, I believe, is our first South Asian man to compete on Survivor. Nasir is a Californian by way of Sri Lanka, home of the Twinnies back in the day, where he grew up actually in very similar Survivor living conditions. He said he essentially grew up like in a hut with no running water, no electricity. He was able to make it to California, where he currently works in, I think, hotel sales. But he is someone who actually learned English through watching Survivor. And so Survivor has been such a seminal... Yeah, it's a wild thing that, this cast is so entrenched.
Is that recommended, Mike?
I mean, again, specific seasons, maybe not. Like, I don't know if you want to watch a season with JT, for example, and learn English through that. That's a really poor example of how to earn the English language. But
hey, I learned to speak English.
It's essentially, imagine Boston Rob and like My Fair Lady. Of like, the rain.
No, in all seriousness, though, that's amazing.
Well, I know people learn languages from TV shows all the time. Like, I have a friend who was raised in Poland, and he learned English through watching Friends. But yeah,
Friends is like the show that you almost always hear that story of people learn to speak English from watching Friends.
Yeah, so I mean, Nasir, essentially, I guess the first words he probably learned was like, the tribe has spoken, or like, I'll always wave my finger in your face. Might have been one of the things they taught him in Survivor Duolingo.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, so Nasir comes in as someone who is very confident in the life that he has led so far, and I think he's ready to change the language of the game for future players as well. But it's really cool. I think it's rare that we see the immigrant experience from a first generation perspective reflected in Survivor. I know shows like Big Brother Canada do it a lot, which I've always loved. So I'm really happy we're bringing more of that in too.
Okay, let's talk about Ricard.
Yes, Ricard. Don't call me Richard. Foyer. Ricard is a really interesting one. So Ricard is a flight attendant, but he is someone who has worked with a lot of musical jobs in the past, which you would not expect considering that, as I mentioned before, he is deaf in one ear. Ricard is a very fun personality. He is someone who prides himself on his sense of humor, on the ability to crack jokes. But Ricard also has some people he's doing it for back home. He has a baby that he's taking care of, and apparently a second baby that is due the day they get back, or they got back, I should say.
It's a good thing it's only 26-day season.
Yeah, so Ricard's got a little bit of Jeremy Collins in him, but he's a very fun personality. I'm excited to break down everything Ricard has to say.
Okay. How about Sarah Wilson?
So Sarah is a healthcare consultant from Boston. She is a former MIT grad. I gotta say,
to Nick Wilson.
No, more north of the Mason-Dixon line, I should say. Maybe not involved in the Mason-Dixon alliance from that perspective. But I will say also, just like the CV of these contestants is pretty alarming, right? We have the Georgetown grad, we have the MIT grad, like very smarty pants bunch here.
It used to be like, I'm a bartender, like to party on the weekends.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, they found me at a taco cart, and now here I am on
golf.
Yeah, and here we are, like MIT grad. Basically, Sarah is someone who, basically, she is a long distance swimmer. So much like Katie Ledecky, she hopes she can sort of like pace herself to a gold medal finish here.
Yeah, Survivor is like my college that like I got in when I got in, but then if I applied now that they would have said, this is a little bit more of a reach school for you.
Exactly. Like, look at the brochure. I don't think this is really your type of school anymore.
Yeah. Have you considered Naked and Afraid?
Naked and Afraid in Love, especially. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. If we're talking old school and new school, this is sort of like the new school trying to rebrand itself as old school, right? Of like putting up columns from back in the day of like throwback to when we didn't give them rice and where we didn't have islands that gave away powers. That sort of is what they're going for here. But yeah, Survivor School is in session, and we shall see if Sarah will ace or fail here.
Okay. All right. Then how about Chantal?
Chantal is another Canadian, originally from Toronto, and you haven't been pastored, Rob. She is a pastor.
Yes. Okay. Good. Excited to hear more about this.
Yeah, Chantal has had a really rough upgoing. She is someone who bounced around a lot in foster homes. She used to be part of a gang, and another person who was inspired by Survivor. She even calls Jeff Probst a parenting voice in her life.
I think you say inspired by Xena Warrior Princess.
Well, that too. I think maybe, I don't know, that if Lucy Lawless comes out for a family visit, I think that would just absolutely make her go bananas. But Survivor is something that has meant so much to her growing up, like a really solid foundational rock in a sea of stuff around her. And now that she has her feet on the ground, the fact that she gets to play this game that has been so incredibly vital to her life so far, if you're talking about personal breakthroughs and emotional journeys, I'm really excited to see how that transcends for Chantal.
Okay. How about Sydney?
Yes, Sydney Siegel is a law student from Brooklyn. Sydney is the first to tell you that she is weird and a little wild. So this is going to be
weird and a little wild.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I believe one of the quotes I got from her is, I think people will perceive me as a little wild. I'll eat anything. I'm probably just going to pick up a random bug and put it in my mouth. I don't like to wear clothes, so I'm always going to be in minimal clothing.
Sydney Siegel.
Sydney is a very unique personality. She is someone who you could very easily tell why she got cast. She is someone who's very sure of herself and sure of her uniqueness as well. And she even puts out that old adage, right, of like, I'm going to be either the first one out or I'm going to make it all the way. And I think after hearing from her, we'll be able to sort of discern which one is more likely than the other one.
Okay. All right. How about Tiffany Seeley?
So it's a big summer of Tiffany's. Tiffany Seeley is a teacher, and Teaching Time with Tiffany has a wild story.
Yes?
Tiffany is not a survivor, Rob. She is what's known as a pre-vivor. She lost her mother to this like debilitating case of ovarian cancer. And basically, she was one of the youngest people to have essentially like a double mastectomy due to just like the genetics. And so she's already been through this incredibly harrowing experience. And so she calls herself a pre-vivor because she was able to nip that in the bud. It was almost like stage 0 cancer. And so she's like, listen, I've dealt with this. I've dealt with inner city kids in New York City trying to get them to sit down and learn. I'm ready for Survivor at this point. Yeah. And also, she is someone who also has a history with the show in that she got engaged while watching Survivor.
Yes, which episode?
Let's see. I'm trying to look. I don't know if she remembers. I think it was like 12 years ago. So I'm trying to do some mental math. That was the spring of 2009, which would be what?
Tocantins? Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it was like during the monastic approach episode, right? Where he's like, I'm so inspired by Coach. His back went out, and he's like, oh, my back went out too. Will you marry me? Just kidding. Oh,
he got down on one knee. That was perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. So yeah, Tiffany has a big relationship with Survivor, not only the show, but the word.
And also living on Long Island. Maybe we can go get coffee after this.
Yeah, Plainview. Maybe she and Sue, Brian Cohen's mother, will be able to have
Plainview. You think she knows Plainview Sue?
Perhaps. I don't know if it's a small enough community.
Well, that's where I had an apartment, and I went there. I lived there when I played in Survivor All-Stars, so not a great track record for Plainview survivors.
We'll see. We'll see if she makes it. Listen, it's also 18 players. We'll see if she'll make it past episode 4.
Yeah. Okay. What about Xander?
All right. Last but not least, we have Xander here. I believe the first player on Survivor to have his name beginning with an X. First Xavier on BB23, and now this is the season of X's.
It's the summer of X.
The summer of X. So Xander is 21. He is an app developer, and he is, a tall, athletic drink of water, as you can see here. But essentially, what he's hoping is that he can sort of be like a bro on the outside, but then become like the softie on the inside. Right? He, in fact, talks about the fact that people often approach him in school and are like, wow, I thought you were a total douche, but you're actually a pretty nice guy. I don't know how much that's going to portend to the first impressions in the game of Survivor, but I think he's trying.
Frenchie's not on this season.
Sniff out those meatheads. Well, listen, they're going to be looking for meat anytime soon, so maybe they'll keep the meatheads around. But yeah, I think that Xander, he really very much falls into that bucket. Even he talks about that in his bio, right? Like comparing himself to Jay, to Ozzy. So it'll be interesting to see how Xander builds upon that image, but also tries to subvert it as well.
Okay. All right. Those are 18 castaways. Great job going through those real quick, Mike.
Yeah, well, listen, we're going to have much, much more to say about them over the next week or so. So that's just a deep dive about it. And I can also imagine there's going to be plenty of more opportunities, even outside of the two of us, to just completely get into every minuscule word these castaways said before we get 14 more weeks of getting into every single minuscule word these castaways say.
All right. Is there anything else that we need to address today?
I'm not entirely sure. I think that's all I've got on my end. Now, obviously, if stuff comes out in the interim from when we post this, like, for example, I know that CBS likes to post videos. If other interviews come out, whether with Dalton Ross or other publications, I think we're going to incorporate that into our cast preview.
Yep.
But I think at the moment, given what we have, that's got nothing else for you. Head on back to your next podcast in the feed.
Okay, we are going to have plenty of other Survivor preseason coverage coming for you, both in the RHAP main feed, plus I'm sure there will be many other podcasts along the way. So make sure you're subscribed for all of that. Also, I do want to give you a little bit of a heads up, of course, that it's the start of the Survivor season here. It is a great time to become a patron of Rob Has a Podcast. We're going to have a lot of exclusives for the patrons of Rob Has a Podcast. I would say it's August 30th, and unless you are planning on doing the annual membership, that I would say hold off and wait till September 1st. I'll give you just a couple days of warning, because if you sign up now at the end of August, then the way that Patreon works is that you'll get billed again for the start of September. I don't want to see you have a negative experience right off the bat. So wait till September 1st. Tell you more about everything that we're doing when we get to our next podcast. But we have some really fun patron exclusives coming your way at robhasawebsite.com/patron. All right, Mike, what's coming up for you?
Well, Rob, you and I are going to be talking Survivor a lot over the course of this week. So as mentioned before, you and I are going to get back together to do 3 cast previews. We're doing 6 people at a time. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to go 3 men, 3 women alphabetically by first name. So for example, the next podcast that you and I are going to do is going to be talking about Brad, Danny, David, Erica, Evie, and Genie. Those will be the first 6 that we're talking about. Again, we're going to be playing audio interviews, talking about the written interviews that we're doing. Like I said, starting tomorrow, at the time of recording this, August 31st, I am going to be releasing 2 cast interviews a day. Women in the morning, men in the afternoon. And I'm going to go in reverse alphabetical order because why the hell not? So for example, tomorrow morning. Because I can and I will. So starting tomorrow, for instance, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., I'm going to be, you'll read my interview with Tiffany. And then tomorrow at around 2 p.m. or so, you'll read my interview with Xavier. It's going to be 2 a day. We're skipping Labor Day. So I think around the 9th is when that should be finished. So of course, doing that, be sure to check those out, because while I'll try to cover stuff in the podcast I'm doing with Rob, not everything will be there. And we're hoping to sort of give you a nice full picture as to who this person is before they come into the game of Survivor, which I'm very excited about. Outside of that, though, Rob, you and I are talking even more Survivor this week. I mentioned it before. Tomorrow, you, me, Haley Strong, we're gathering a motley crew to talk about what was voted as the 3rd best season of Survivor Pearl Islands.
Can't wait. We're going to get into everything as we were talking about the 3rd best season of all time, Survivor Pearl Islands. Should be a really fun one. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am up to the penultimate episode at the moment, and I love this season from top to bottom. It is such a fun season in so many ways. One of my favorite seasons of reality TV in general. So I'm excited to get into all of the absolute nonsense with you and Haley on that. And then outside of that, of course, speaking of other Survivor stuff, I'm currently covering Survivor South Africa. Yes, International Survivor has been going very, very strong over the course of the summer. We're in the final 4 weeks of Survivor South Africa, and it was myself, Shannon Gus, and the great Jean-Michel came on to talk about a big episode of Survivor South Africa. That is still happening weekly. If for whatever reason you check out this preseason stuff and you're like, oh man, I've really been itching for more Survivor, give it to me now, I don't want to wait 3 weeks, you have some really great international seasons to check out that have been airing over the course of this summer. Of course, with Big Brother, I'm doing Exit Press on Parade.com, as well as the Big Brother B&B. Got together yesterday, me, Lyanna, not Lyanna Wallace, Lyanna Boris, and Kirsten McGinnis to talk about the past few weeks of Big Brother with the usual shenanigans that we do. And then I was on RHAP this past week, Rob, with you and Akiva Winokur and Jessica Lees talking Star Trek. We tried to give our orientation of Star Trek to Akiva, who had never seen really an episode at all, try to introduce everyone and hopefully make everyone a defunct Trekkie by the end of that. That was a lot of fun. And then finally, over on post-show recaps, The Bloom Files, which is a podcast I do every week with my wife, Angela Bloom. I've never seen the X-Files before. It's her favorite show. And so she is introducing me to it. But look, speaking of the monster, we're talking a whole different type of monster over on Lost Down the Hatch, a Lost rewatch podcast. Myself, Josh Wigler, talking through every episode of Lost. Just finished season 5. We're doing a feedback show before we take the plunge into talking all things Monster with season 6. So if you are looking to get into more island shenanigans, it is there as well. And I'm sure plenty more to come, including the B&B proper is going to be coming back at some point with the Survivor version as well. So it's a lot. There's a lot going on right now. Again, I am well fed, unlike the Survivor 41 castaways.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, incredible job today. You had basically the preseason. You have it on lock.
Thank you. Well, I am really excited, especially
Not John Locke.
No, unfortunately not. He's in a box somewhere. But I think that, I'm really excited for this. I can absolutely understand the reservations.
Mike was giddy when we came on the podcast today.
The Survivor's back. And I know it's been back in other forms, but like this is something that we have only prognosticated about. And even like listening to the interviews and piecing them together was sort of one thing, but I think it became official to me once we actually got into this and fans got to know people and get excited for the new season. Like now it feels corporeal to me. And that is really, really cool. Because I love the crap out of this show. And I love getting to talk about this show. And I know that there are reservations to be had about some of the changes that are made, and I absolutely understand them. So I am hoping for the best in this regard. We shall see what happens with these changes. But if anything, I judge a lot of seasons by the cast. The cast, for my money, is really, really strong. I can't wait to get into them. And I just can't wait for this to start. The 22nd cannot come soon enough, Rob.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back to talking about new Survivor with everybody. It has definitely been fun to go through the all-time top 40 rankings.
Well, going on a cruise is fun. I don't know if doing that was fun.
Yeah. I am really looking forward to the Survivor season coming up here in just 3 weeks. Mike, we are less days away from the start of the season as the length of the Survivor season.
So you're going to be starving yourself for the time being to get the full experience as to what they're going to get?
I mean, I probably should. I've eaten like hell on this trip. Yeah.
Well, listen, certain Survivor contestants are doing just that, so you might need to find a new gimmick.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for checking out our Survivor 41 kickoff special. Much more to come when you subscribe to Rob as a podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.